Gacha games are in a weird spot, aren't they? I know I felt my excitement really start to dwindle in regards to them. Hello everybody, I'm Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and I want to talk about whether or not I'm actually quitting Gacha, and it's a little complicated, but for the most part, yes, and I want to go over why. Because if you look into the history of this channel, I have played a lot of Gacha stuff for quite a while on this channel. Most of it Hoyo specific, like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and a little bit of ZZZ here and there, and then quite a bit of Wuthering Waves, so that's really going to be the area that I tackle this from. I've played a bit of other Gacha games that they never really grabbed me and kept my interest, like those titles had. But over the last few months, I have just not really had a desire to play them. I think it's somewhat because of what these games are specifically doing, but it's also, and this is what I really want to focus in on in this video, the role Gacha played for me is being filled by something else. So let's focus on what these games are doing specifically first, and then let's get into that part later on in the video. This is not going to be another Genshin Impact hate video or anything like that. I fell out of love with Genshin Impact all the way back in Sumeru. Haven't really had a strong desire to ever come back to that game, but I did also fall in love with Honkai Star Rail, and that game was great for me. And I made a video back in July of last year, I think it was July, give or take a month, where I talked about my issues with the perceived power creep that was going on in that game, and the horizontal progression, where it's no longer about fleshing out a whole bunch of different teams to tackle whatever challenge the game then posed to you, which I found fun and interesting with the launch of the game. What it had become was them releasing a new meta and then building up that new meta for it to be discarded a few months later on for a new one. It was progression that I no longer found particularly interesting or fun or enjoyable to grind. And one of the reasons I want to preface this, one of the reasons this affected me so much in regards to Honkai Star Rail, and I'm not saying other games don't have this problem, but these are the games that I focused on specifically, so they're the ones that I'm going to personally talk about. The reason this affected me so much is because one of the reasons I played Gacha games so much was because they were fulfilling a desire for incremental progression that I had. I like having a game where I can just log in every now and then, I don't have to think too much about it, I can get some kind of incremental progression from each of the play sessions, building something up over time. I find that fun, I find that interesting, I like that sort of thing. And when I left World of Warcraft a few years ago, I didn't have anything that really fulfilled that desire in my gaming heart. Final Fantasy XIV was the closest thing, but it didn't scratch the exact itch. And Gacha games were closer in this regard of fulfilling that need for me. But while I'd already fallen out of love with Genshin Impact for a multitude of design reasons and direction indicators that I was picking up on all the way back then, the game just wasn't going to be designed for me. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, it's just I'm no longer within the audience of people that enjoy the game. There's plenty of others that do, and there's nothing wrong with that, it's just game wasn't for me. I wasn't finding the combat fun, I wasn't finding the story fun, I wasn't finding the storytelling good at all. I felt the pacing to be slow, like trying to run a marathon through molasses at times, and them just repeating exposition over and over and over and over and over again really got on my nerves. Didn't like anger me or anything, just became repetitive and dull and uninteresting. I started to care way less about the characters, and I just moved on. And I moved on to Honkai Star Rail, and I'm starting to have those same issues there as well. Now, I haven't even touched 3.0. That kind of goes back to my lack of interest in Honkai Star Rail and Hoyoverse right now. So I'm not going to speak to the quality of 3.0 or 3.1. I will say, though, regardless of anything that I talk about, if any of those, like, leaked passives that have been making their rounds make it to live, I'm just done with Hoyoverse in general, and I'll just never even consider coming back. But, like, I don't have much of a desire to play them right now anyway, so it's like, ugh. Permanent account-wide buffs for pulling a new character is just outrageously greedy, and leans into every worst element of Gacha that I was able to ignore for the longest time because the games themselves were so fun and interesting to me, and enjoyable. I've had an interesting thing happen to me when it comes to Honkai Star Rail, and that was, I really enjoyed the start of Penacony. And when I experienced the end of Penacony, I enjoyed it at the time, and when I experienced a couple of the stories thereafter, I enjoyed them at the time, namely the Lofu stuff, right? At the time, I enjoyed it. It was fine to me. Looking back on it, I'm like, I think my love for this game really started to die down after 2.0, and with the story direction afterwards, because it was no longer in the direction of 2.0 specifically with Penacony's launch that I enjoyed so much. It didn't have that same feel, it didn't have that same emotional impact that I was looking for. The direction I wanted out of the game is like best epitomized through the song if I can stop one heart from breaking, and it just never really got that again. I started to really not enjoy Hoyoverse's style of comedy either, and like the way they view comedy and comedic relief, it's either you love it or you don't. And I wish I could still vibe with it, because I think I used to, but then they started to overplay jokes, like the trash can stuff. I thought it was charming and kind of fun with Penacony's release, and then they just did it about 20 times a patch, and it's like, you ever see a meme going around online, and it's really funny the first few times you see it, and then everyone just doesn't stop using it, and it goes on for months, and you're like, can we think of something else, please? This is getting really stale and repetitive, and it's a shame because the joke was so good initially. And then when they tried new jokes, like Rapper's entire questline with the monkeys, it just bounced off of me completely, and I was fully uninterested. And I was hoping that 3.0 would recapture my attention. I thought the theme looked interesting, being based in ancient Greek mythology and all that, but it didn't have enough pull for me to really want to log in. Again, I'm not talking about the qualities of 3.0 or 3.1. I'm not qualified to speak on those. I haven't played them, nor have I really watched much content in regards to what happens there. I just hear the yap fest, but it's like, it's a Hoyo game, it's kind of always been like that, but maybe it's a little worse this go around, but again, I don't know. And then with Zenless Zone Zero, I just thought I would like the combat, I did, but I don't think it's for me. It didn't have the impact that I'm particularly looking for, and it felt a bit too repetitive and floaty for me. I can understand perfectly why some people would love that combat system, and I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm just saying not for me. Wuthering Waves, this is why I said that I'm not entirely out on gacha games, because I still think Wuthering Waves is great, though I haven't played in a while. I played 2.0 and I really enjoyed 2.0, but again, I haven't had much of a desire to play since that. But if there's a gacha game that I come back to, it's going to be Wuthering Waves, because I think the inherent qualities of that game appeal to me far more. I love the tone, I love the atmosphere, I think the characters are pretty well written. The combat is super fun and interesting. I love the music. There's a lot of elements to Wuthering Waves that I really do enjoy. And the reason I'm not really playing Wuthering Waves right now is not particularly the fault of the game itself. It's now going to that previous point I alluded to before, my own personal circumstances. I got back into World of Warcraft, and if you recall before, gacha games largely filled a hole for me in regards to a game that I can always just log into and get a little bit of incremental progression. I can put a lot of hours into it if I want, or I can just dip my toe in for a little bit and then go do other stuff. But now that I'm back into World of Warcraft and I'm really enjoying that game, that role is being fulfilled by WoW, not the gacha games for me. And there's a lot of other games right now that I really want to play. I want to play a lot of the other Monster Hunter games, let alone the fact Wilds just came out and I'm loving that. I'm still looking my way through Shin Megami Tensei 5. I want to play all the FromSoft games because I haven't beaten a few of them and I really want to. Let alone all the other games coming out this year that I really want to play. Stellar Blade's PC port, Expedition 33, the new Doom game. I also play Final Fantasy XIV. I play a lot of games. I like playing a lot of games. However, they do take time, and I barely have enough time nowadays to play all the versions of WoW as is. I really only play retail despite wanting to play, or at least dip my toe in some of the other versions of WoW. So trying to fit in a gacha game where I'm incentivized to log in every day, even if it's for a few minutes, I don't want to play a game just because I feel obligated to. But I think when it concerns Wuthering Waves specifically, I could see myself still playing that in the future, playing the story, doing a bit of the side content. I can see myself playing that. However, I've had bad luck with quite a few of my pulls in Wuthering Waves, and I've missed out on certain characters that I would really enjoy. And this goes to another inherent point for gacha, or at least against gacha for me personally, and that is, I like having multiple different styles to play a game. If I do any one thing for too long, I'm going to get bored. I like having that sense of variety. But with a gacha game, if I don't pull a character, which sometimes can just be out of my power, or if they release characters that I really want back to back to back, and I just don't have enough resources in-game because I refuse to actually pay for these games, because I don't like gacha as a monetization model, if I just miss out on a character, then I miss out on that entire playstyle, and that didn't particularly bother me all that much when it came to Honkai Star Rail, because it's turn-based. And also my luck in Honkai Star Rail was actually insane as well. But I definitely have a preference for real-time combat and in Wuthering Waves, since I enjoy the combat so much, when I missed out on a character there like Chang Li or the Painter Girl, it kind of stung because I'm missing out on characters that I can play in certain pieces of content that are really fun, and I just can't play anywhere else. Whereas in World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, if I want to play a different job or class, I can just go level the thing and have access to a style of new combat. It's not like I have to win a gacha role if I want to unlock Rogue or something. And while I'm optimistic specifically for the future of Wuthering Waves, one of the reasons I really fell out of interest when it comes to games from Hoyoverse like Honkai Star Rail or Zenless Zone Zero, mainly Honkai Star Rail though, is because I tend to be a hyper-pessimist when it comes to companies. I am a believer that they only care about profit. They only care about money. And they don't care about you, the player. They never have, and they probably never will. Do individual developers care? Sure, they absolutely can. And I think if you did spend the time to play a lot of these stories and a lot of these parts of the games that a lot of people love, it is clear to see the passion there. However, business is king. And when I look at some of the business policies a lot of these gacha companies are invoking nowadays, specifically Hoyoverse as well, I don't have much faith in the future. The double banner in Genshin Impact, I am under no belief that will be specifically relegated to only Genshin Impact, because when you look at the actual revenue reports, that apparently did really well for Hoyoverse. Sure, it can drum up a bunch of negative controversy online, but if enough people are willing to spend ludicrous amounts of money to support that behavior anyways, as a business, and if you're a shareholder, you're going to be saying, well, when are you going to do it again? And the big test, in my opinion, will be in the near future for Honkai Star Rail when it concerns these upcoming characters, where if you look at their leaked kits, they have universal passive bonuses to where they apply a benefit for you just by being on your account, not even necessarily on your team. If that makes it to live, it's over. Because I don't believe people will vote with their wallet. Let me rephrase that. I think they will. The vote's just not going to go the way you hope it will. I think there will be a lot of people out there that spend insane amounts of money for each of these passive bonuses, because that's just how the gacha community and whales in gacha kind of just operate. They don't care, but it rewards this behavior. And while I know there's quite a lot of people out there that hope that with enough controversy right now, they might be able to nip this in the bud and get Hoyoverse to remove or heavily modify these passive bonuses before it even makes it live. I'm an advocate that if this even makes it in concept, that was a problem to begin with. There's someone in the back room, and again, it's leaked, so nothing's inherently confirmed, but when we get the live stream and if it's actually there, the problem for me isn't even if they will eventually remove it, it's the fact it was ever approved to begin with and wasn't killed in the crib in the concept area of development. That's my problem. There's a few people back there that thought they could get away with it. That's the issue. The issue is the concept. Because there's no way to balance it, there's no way to make it fair or optimized. It's inherently predatory. It is extreme FOMO. And gacha is predicated on the idea of FOMO, but this is taken to the extreme, where it's not even a matter of if this character gets power crept or not. Because does anyone actually think that in the future they'll release another character with another passive bonus that says, this doesn't stack with his previous character's passive account-wide bonus? Does anyone actually think that? Why would the gacha company do that? Why? There's no reason to. What happens down the line when someone, maybe not even Hoyoverse, but someone out there gets the idea saying, hey, if people are willing to spend on 2 premium characters in the same banner, and people are also willing to spend on characters that provide universal passive bonuses for your account, not even necessarily for the team they're in, what if we combine these ideas? What if we release 2 characters on the same banner, both with universal passive bonuses that you really would like, because they're strictly additive, and we just do that? Gacha games and gacha companies are known for being greedy to the extreme. For me, when it concerns like this genre of game, I enjoyed it in spite of the gacha, not because of the gacha. Were there times that gaching can be fun and interesting? Sure, yeah. And I enjoy that long-term planning. But at the end of the day, you can't be under any illusion that any of this is inherently beneficial. And the way I viewed it wasn't that I was playing these games because they were gacha. gacha. I was playing them in spite they were gacha, because the other elements to these games I enjoyed so much. I enjoyed the story of a lot of these Hoyoverse games. I enjoyed the story of Wuthering Waves. I enjoyed the actual gameplay of a lot of these games. I enjoyed the world, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the aesthetics. But when I look at these upcoming business practices that are likely to happen, and some that already have, coupled with declining quality that appeals to me in regards to some of these games, all while I have a lot of other games that I really want to put a lot of time and effort into. I have another game now that appeals to me in terms of incremental progression. It's all these factors coming together that have really eroded away a lot of the interest and love that I used to have for these games. And I'm not saying, and I want to make this clear, I'm not saying you have to feel like this. I'm just explaining why I feel like this. Though I will say, if anyone is actually defending those upcoming, I'm not even sure what the correct terminology here is, data mined elite, universal passive bonuses coming to Honkai Star Rail, I would urge you to reconsider your position, because I believe you're arguing against your own best self-interest and the self-interest of consumers at large. If these were characters you got for free by nature of playing the game, that would be one thing. The moment they come from a gacha banner, though, that is where the issues come in. That is where extreme FOMO to the max, to the end of the spectrum, comes into play. And if you don't care about it, that's one thing. But then don't be surprised if the quality and state of the game continues in that direction. I know there's a lot of people that say if that stuff even makes it to live, then they're done with Hoyoverse games. And like, yeah, that is applicable for me, but it's not that strong coming from me because I just haven't had an interest in actually playing these games to begin with lately, right? It's like a vegetarian telling you they're gonna boycott a burger place. It's like, alright, you weren't gonna eat here anyway, so like, what's it matter? There is still always that asterisk with Wuthering Waves because I enjoy that game inherently. I enjoy the story, I enjoy the gameplay, it's just a matter of time for me. And if I can find time to dip my toe into that game and experience it, I don't know if I will ever have a desire to just like grind that game every day again, because there's other games I prefer grinding every day instead. But I leave the door open for Wuthering Waves. And leave a comment down below with if you feel similar to me or if you disagree. How do you feel? I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day. See you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.